Okay, today I'm going to talk to you about hazards and risk. So a hazard is anything that has the potential to cause someone harm or damage. And a risk associated with the hazard is the probability of someone being harmed if they're exposed to that hazard. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to talk through what each of these 6 hazard symbols mean, and I'm going to show you how to do a risk assessment. So this first hazard symbol here means oxidizing. Now what that means is this particular substance, no matter what it is, produces oxygen. So it provides oxygen in a reaction. Now, as you may know, oxygen is required in order for a combustion reaction to occur, so burning to happen. So if we have an oxidizing agent, it means that it could cause a flame to burn much more readily. An example of this would be liquid oxygen. So these hazard symbols we find on all of the different substances we work with, and it just tells us information about that substance, the first one being oxidizing. Now, this next one is environmental hazard. Now, all that means is it can be harmful to organisms. Remember, the word organism just means living thing. So we've got to be a little bit careful, because sometimes if we just, for example, tip some substances down the sink without dealing with them properly, disposing them properly, they could end up damaging organisms in the environment. An example of this is mercury. So each time in red it shows what the hazard is, in purple it shows the harm that it causes, and in green it gives an example. Okay, the next one, this kind of skull and crossbones here, that one there means toxic. So if you see that symbol on the side of a bottle, it means that it can cause death. Now this could be through several different means. It could be, depending on the different substance, it could be caused by swallowing, breathing in, or in certain cases absorption through the skin itself. An example of this, a toxic substance, is hydrogen cyanide. So it's the one that can cause death. Just think of the skull and crossbones as a nice way of remembering that it causes death. Okay, next up, this exclamation mark, this sign here means harmful. Okay, so it can basically cause irritation, reddening, or blistering of the skin. So if you spill this chemical onto your hands, these are the different problems that it could potentially cause. An example of this being bleach. So if you were to spill bleach on your hands, it could cause irritation, reddening, and could also cause blisters. Right, next up we have this one. The one that looks like a fire just simply means highly flammable. Now, a highly flammable substance is one that catches fire easily. So you want to keep this one way away from an open flame, because it can catch fire really, really readily, really easily. An example would be petrol. Now, people often get these two symbols confused, highly flammable and oxidizing. The way that I remember which one's which is if you have a look at oxidizing, that circle looks like an O. O for oxidizing. So that's the way that I tell the difference between them. Highly flammable means that substance itself catches fire easily. Oxidizing means it just produces and provides oxygen into reaction, which therefore causes more burning or more combustion to occur. This one here is corrosive. So what corrosive means is it destroys materials. Now, as you can see from the diagram, this could be materials as in material substances or biological substances, for example, skin. So concentrated sulfuric acid is an example of this. If you get it on your skin, it could burn right through. It could also damage different materials as well. Now, before we use any of these substances in science, we need to do something called a risk assessment. In a risk assessment, we look at a particular substance to try and think about how we can make sure we're not going to get hurt when we use it. So, for example, let's imagine I was using this substance here. So my hazard is sulfuric acid. That's the thing which could harm me. So the hazard is the thing which could harm me. What harm can it cause? So what it could do to me is it could damage my skin and my eyes if I'm not careful. So the whole point of risk assessment is to think about, what am I going to do to keep myself safe? The next thing I need to think about is, how likely is it that I was going to get sulfuric acid on my skin or in my eyes? Well, I'd say there's a kind of medium chance of this happening. It's quite easy to have a small spillage of a substance onto your hands. So what could I do in order to help? Now, this part here is the most important part. As you can see, there's a nice way of working way through risk assessments, because each stage begins with H. Hazard, harm, how likely, help. So this final stage is the really important one. Considering the damage that could be caused, the harm that could be caused from the hazard, what can I do to make sure I don't get harmed by this? So what I could do to prevent the damage of the skin, I could wear gloves. To prevent damage of my eyes, I could wear goggles. And also, I'm going to try and use a low concentration as possible, because obviously the lower the concentration, the less corrosive that this substance is going to be. So that is, these are the different hazards that we need to know, and this is how to complete a risk assessment. Thank you very much.